Azerbaijan has continued to deploy military forces to Kalbajar region days after Azerbaijan's president vowed to rebuild and revive the region shattered by weeks of conflict. Azeri forces began taking control of the area last week as part of the Russian-brokered trilateral ceasefire that ended over 6 weeks of intense fighting over Nagorno-Karabakh region. A video released by Azerbaijan Defense Ministry on Saturday showed Azerbaijani armed forces entering the abandoned town. In an address to the nation soon last week after Azerbaijani troops entered the region, President Ilham Aliyev said that we will restore Kalbajar and we will bring life there. Kalbajar was expected to be handed over on November 15th, but Azerbaijan agreed to delay the takeover after a request from Armenia. Azerbaijani officials said worsening weather conditions made the withdrawal of Armenian forces and civilians difficult along the single road through mountainous territory that connects the region with Armenia. The Azeri city of Ganja became one of the worst affected regions during the latest conflict. Deadly missile attacks on October 16th by the Armenian forces claimed at least 17 lives. Dozens of civilians were left injured, and according to Azerbaijani officials, the attack damaged nearly 20 presidential buildings overnight, and Azerbaijan's second biggest city still lies devastated with rubble and debris all around.
Ben itirmişəm. Veren qalanım, veren qalıb. 40 illik, 45 illik elimin emeği, dişdiyim, yığdığım bir dənə sələ gəlmir. Onlar cəhənnəm. Evlatlarımı istəyirəm. Yoxdur da. Məhv oldu, getdi. Bir dənə mən qalmışam bu ailədən. Bir dənə də balaca körpə.
Nagorno-Karabakh lies within Azerbaijan but has been under the control of ethnic Armenians since 1994. A war left Nagorno-Karabakh and substantial surrounding territory in Armenian hands since the 1990s, and heavy fighting that erupted late September marked one of the biggest escalations of a long simmering conflict between the two former Soviet Unions. The violence was halted by a Russian-brokered truce 2 weeks ago. Under its terms, Azerbaijan will keep control over several key areas that it gained control of during the conflict. Meanwhile, Armenia will withdraw its troops from those regions. And for more on this now, we are being joined by political analyst from Russia, Dmitry Babish. Thank you so much for joining us. What can you tell us about the process of handing over territories in Nagorno-Karabakh?
Well, the process is going on. There are Russian peacekeepers who make sure that there is no violence, committed during this process, because obviously hatred between two sides is awful. And it's in Russia's interest to stop the hostilities, because we have several million Armenians and several million Azerbaijanis living in Russia. We want these two countries to live in peace. Their communities in Russia live in peace. They have a quarrel with each other. The conflict that is taking place in Karabakh, I would like to stress, it doesn't have a religious or political character. It's an old tribal story which unfortunately took barbaric proportions, and we feel huge pity for both sides. We are absolutely happy that this terrible war ended on the 10th of November, and hopefully there will be no more violence at this moment. Azerbaijanis are returning to the areas that they left in 1994. Most of these territories are now no man's land. And we wish these people to rebuild this area, to restart normal life there.
All right, and also, as you of course know, the Azeri city of Ganja became one of the worst affected regions during this latest conflict. What can you tell us about that? Are there any measures in place?
Well, both sides committed several cruel acts during this war. It was not just soldiers dying. The Western press mostly reports about the bombardment of Stepanakert, which was terrible. But I think these terrible things that happened to big cities inside Azerbaijan, such as Ganja and Bardi, which were hit by Armenian missiles, there's not enough reports about that. Well, Azerbaijan is a rich country. Only the military budget of Azerbaijan is bigger than all of the state budget of Armenia. So it has resources to rebuild. And of course, other countries of the former Soviet Union will help, as well as the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which of course expressed sympathy with Azerbaijan since the beginning of the conflict.
Yes, and on that note, of course, we know so many lives have been lost and families have also been displaced. What measures are in place to accommodate these families now?
Well, because Armenians have a lot more influence in the media in the West and in Russia, people know about the terrible fate of Armenians who had lived in Baku before the 90s, before this conflict started. People know about 160,000 Armenians now living in Karabakh. Most of them hopefully will stay and will be protected by the Russian peacekeepers. But fewer people know about at least 400,000 Azerbaijani refugees who had to leave this area in 1993, 1994, and who lived in other areas of Azerbaijan ever since. I mean, their plight does not make such dramatic pictures as, you know, the footage from Stepanakert right now, but these people have been suffering for 26 years. And I'm very happy that they will now be able to return. I hope they will return and restart normal life in their homes that they had to live in the 90s.
All right, Mr. Dmitry Babish, thank you so much for joining us with all those detail and your insights.